Hey mama, do you find yourself wishing you knew you were on the right path with your business? Or wanting to know how to do it all as a work-at-home mom and entrepreneur? If you struggle with imposter syndrome, mom guilt, or fear of failure, then you're in the right place. Hi, I'm Alexia, a Christian mindset coach passionate about teaching moms how to renew their minds to find success both in business and motherhood. You can overcome the negative thoughts holding you back from fully stepping into your calling. I know what it's like to worry your business will never work, to feel mom guilt every time you work on your business, to realize your mindset is hindering you, but not knowing how to change it in a Christ-centered way. I created the Mama with a Calling podcast to teach you how to use the powerful combination of God's Word and proven mindset strategies to help you break free from negative, paralyzing thoughts and gain clarity and confidence to go where God is leading you. As you step out of the old way of thinking and into God's way, you'll find more peace, joy, and purpose. Pop in those earbuds and get ready to let God work in you so He can work through you. Hey there, and welcome back to another episode of the Mama with a Calling podcast. I'm Alexia. Thank you for joining me. I am getting this episode out a little bit later this week than I intended, but hey, I'm here. Life happens, so that's just that. As a work-at-home mom, sometimes we don't get things when we need to, but as long as we keep going, that's all that matters, right? So to get started, if you haven't already signed up for the free training happening this coming Wednesday, October 4th, don't miss out on that. So in this training, I'm going to be teaching you how to follow your calling to own an online business without letting fear, doubt, and worry hold you back any longer. So if you're ready to break free from the chains of mindset blocks that have been holding you back from pursuing your true calling and gaining real traction in your business, then you want to be in this training. This is completely free. It's going to be happening inside of the free Facebook group, the Faith Driven Business Mamas. And you have two options. You can either join me on Zoom, or it'll be streamed into the Facebook group so you can just watch it there as well. I'd love to see you on Zoom at the end of the training. If you're on Zoom, I will stick around a little bit for any questions, do some coaching, that kind of thing. So that'll be awesome. To register and get reminders, including the Zoom link, and the replay link, there will be a replay. Go to mamawithacalling.com/training. I'll put that in the description below. I'd love for you to be there live, but I know that life happens. So there will be a replay as well. And those that are there live, again, will be getting some of that coaching at the end. So if possible, come and join me live. It's going to be happening Wednesday, October 4th at 7 p.m. Central Time. I can't wait to see you there. Okay, let's get into today's episode. As you all may know, I homeschool my 7-year-old son, and part of our homeschool is reading the Bible every morning. And it's really fun to be able to show him from a young age how to read the Bible, because I did not have that, and how to ask questions and apply it to his life as he's hearing it. And right now we're reading through Exodus. And I say it like that because as I'm reading it, I find like the Holy Spirit speaks to me in new ways, because I'm thinking, how is my son hearing this? And what can I kind of pull out and draw his attention to? What are some questions to ask him as he's reflecting on it? So we're reading through Exodus, and we're at the part where the Israelites are leaving Egypt. And they're about to cross the Red Sea. I mean, we know that, but they didn't know that. And as I was reading, a passage stood out to me that I just wanted to share with you all today, because I really feel like it's so important to notice this and to recognize how it could apply to your life even now. So it's Exodus 14, 3-4. So they haven't gotten there yet, but God is saying this. He says, Pharaoh, I want them to, God has told them to backtrack. They went one way, told them to go a different way. And then it says, Pharaoh will think the Israelites are wandering around the land in confusion, hemmed in by the desert. And I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and he will pursue them. But I will gain glory for myself through Pharaoh and all his army, and the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord. So the Israelites did this. I mean, did you hear that? Like when I read this, I immediately thought about how God can use us to do things that do not make sense to other people or even to ourselves, but they have a purpose. Here, God explained it to Moses, but they still had to walk in faith. Like there's a lot of times where we're called to do something and God has not explained it to us. Like we don't understand. But even still, the Israelites had to walk in faith. Like to leave Egypt and to go one way and then go back another way. Like they probably were like, what? But they have to walk in faith, going back the way they just came trusting God in this process. They don't have anywhere else to go. Trusting that he is good and he is God. And I got to thinking about how often this applies to us as entrepreneurs. You feel like you've been called to do one thing, and then as you're on that path, you feel led to go down a different path and do something else, or just a different direction or a different niche or whatever it may be. And here's where the hard part comes. What do you do in that moment when you feel led to go a different direction? Right? Like, it's so easy to dismiss it and say it's a distraction from the original direction God was leading you down. Like, nope, that's not what God said. I'm going to do this. It's also easy to start the whole mindset drama where you're asking yourself, is it really God, or is it the enemy, or is it me? Want to do my own thing? Is it fear? Like, what is it? And all these questions are valid questions and definitely things that you should pray about in a situation like that. But I want to encourage you to also think about an alternative, that this could be exactly where God is leading you, because it will ultimately lead you where he needs you to be, and it will bring him glory in a way that you can't even imagine. So I don't want to confuse you more. I just think it's really good to have examples that God could ask you to go one way and then another way. If we don't have an example of that, or believe that God has done that or will do that, then in that moment, you may not consider that. So I wanted to bring that to the table because it could be an option. So if you are listening to God and you are feeling that right now, that you are feeling very strongly that you're supposed to pivot, don't dismiss that. You don't know, like, if God's asking you to, then do it. You don't know the purpose. You don't have to understand. And it is totally possible that he's asking you to do that. Because after this, when the Israelites do this, Pharaoh, in fact, does pursue them. That's what God said would happen, right? He then pursues them. The Israelites then, in that moment, because they turned back and looked all confused, they now have to learn to really trust God now, probably more than ever, because they have Pharaoh's army behind them and the Red Sea in front of them with nowhere to go. So they rightfully start freaking out. But through this moment, they learn to trust God even more than before, maybe more than ever before. Their lives literally depend on it. So they get to see that God is still taking care of them in their most, their craziest moment. He is going to provide a way. Then they get to see God make that way when there does not appear to be a way out, right? He splits the sea right before them. I'm pretty sure that was not even on their radar, that was an option, but here it is. And then because of this, Pharaoh then pursues them into the passage that God opened up into the water. And then God's going to wipe away Pharaoh and his army right before the Israelites. And this is their biggest fear, and their oppressor of their lives is now gone in a moment. Imagine if that hadn't happened, that Pharaoh didn't pursue them. Why was that important? Why did God need this whole thing to play out? Just imagine if this hadn't happened, every moment the Israelites were in the wilderness, they would have been fearful that Pharaoh's going to come and get them. Would they have really been free if Pharaoh was still sitting there on his throne? It also, they wouldn't have really been free from that. And God also took away their fear in his love for them, right? It showed them that God really is the most powerful, not this earthly power that Pharaoh was. Like, Pharaoh was the most powerful in their earthly eyes. And God's saying, no, I am the Most High. And none of this would have happened had they not gone one way and then another way, looking like they're lost and confused. Doing something big, like being set free from Egypt or quitting your job, starting a business, etc., means eyes are on you for a bit. Like, people are watching, like saying, wow, I can't believe they're doing that. They said they're following God. And then you feel like it looks like you're confused because you're doing different things and you're bouncing from this thing to that. Even though you're following God, there's this urge to look like you've got it all together and are following this perfect path, quote unquote, that this big leap of faith that you took wasn't crazy, we want to see that success like instantly. Like, look, I did it. I followed God and like everything was amazing. Told you so. Or like, I'm not crazy. But remember, God gets the glory for this. Even still in your life, in the actions that he's asking you to do, he gets the glory. So you leaving your job, starting your business, etc., as you're following what God's leading you to do, That's giving God glory. And when he asks you to go on a path that isn't perfect, people are going to notice. And they're watching to see what God does, not you, right? I mean, they might be looking at you, but if you're looking to God, that is showing them what it looks like to follow God. Like, how amazing is that? It doesn't matter what you look like, right? It's what is God doing. We make it about us. I mean, it's really easy to do that. And we make it about how we succeed and how every single step we take. But remember, this is God leading you. When you say you're following God, then what happens is because of God. So as you are willing to do these crazy things, to backtrack, to go down one path and then another seemingly unrelated path, start one business, then pivot to another kind, then add this part to your business, God is working in every single one of those decisions. Now, you could be doing, I do want to put a disclaimer, you could be doing all of that stuff because of fear or mindset blocks keeping you from doing what God is asking you to do. Maybe it's hard, maybe it's scary, whatever. That's a different story. That's where I would help you as a coach work through that. But when you're truly listening to God and doing what he's asking, and this is the way he's taking you, don't let fear or pride get in the way. Because in the end, when he brings it all together to make perfect sense of why he had you do all that, people, this is the cool part, people will be able to see the fullness of God's love, what faith looks like when they watched you walk that path and keep going, even though it made no sense to you, because it's more powerful when you do all that and then look where God takes you. It says more about God and shows how his greatness and just, he's going to do bigger things, right? And his goodness is going to be shown to others through those actions that you take. He's going to receive the glory from it, but you have to be willing to maybe go on a path that doesn't feel so straight and so obvious, and that's okay. So I just wanted to share that as an encouragement because I know, I've done this. I have friends that have done this, that are doing this right now, and I see it happen a lot where we feel kind of like, oh my gosh, like I'm changing business ideas all the time. And again, there could be something else going on there mindset block wise. And if that's the case and you need coaching, check out the coaching options that I have. I would love to support you in that. And sometimes it can help to have a coach to, like, I can walk you through to figure out which one is it. Is it your fear or is it God's actually asking you? That is a great way to do a single session with me. But either way, just knowing, like, if you're following God and he's leading you, don't even think about what anybody else thinks about it, because God's going to use that for his glory. And in the process, you are learning to walk in faith, to trust him. And just like how he got rid of Pharaoh for the Israelites, like, they didn't know that was going to happen, but they didn't even know they needed that to happen. And they did, to be successful. So you never know what God's doing on this path he's taking you on to give you something that is going to help you to get where he wants you to go. All right, don't forget to join me inside of the Facebook group for the free training October 4th, or get the Zoom link. Go to mamawithacalling.com/training to sign up, and I will see you then. In the meantime, keep pursuing your calling. Thanks for listening to the Mama with a Calling podcast. As always, you'll find the show notes for today's episode at mamawithacalling.com/podcast. Really quick before you head out, are you loving these episodes? To make sure this podcast gets in the ears of as many mamas as possible, please head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave a review. And while you're there, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes. I'm going to be reading your reviews on the podcast, so I can't wait to hear from you. Also, if you know someone that needs to hear these episodes, grab a screenshot and share it on Instagram, and don't forget to tag me at Mama with a Calling so I can share it in my stories. Until next time, keep pursuing your calling.